Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. I want to send my deepest condolences to Mark Carney and the Liberal Party for losing the entire purpose of their campaign. They were running this federal election on the idea that US President Donald Trump was going to put sweeping tariffs on all Canadian exports. And, well, he didn't. And so, where did they go from here? It's really hard to fearmonger against something that didn't actually happen. And I know there are still auto tariffs and there's still tariffs on steel and aluminum, but those are generic and wide ranging. Plus, Canada has tariffs like that on other countries. It's the dairy cartel. We have that on softwood lumber. We have that on many different agricultural products and other things that are manufactured in Canada. So we're not innocent in all this, and it makes it difficult for Carney and the Liberals to keep pretending that Donald Trump is the great evil that this entire campaign has to be about. So I want to cut to some footage of Carney now trying to justify himself in all of this, talking about how we need to reorient our trade relationships anyways. This is where the Liberals are really going to start falling down because there is no sort of emotional energy behind this issue. Yes, it's still bad for the auto sector. Yes, it's still not great for steel and aluminum. But guess what? We should lower taxes. That is the real thing we should be doing to fight back against any threats to our economy. Even if we had sweeping tariffs on us, the solution is lowering taxes. Anyways, so before I get into this clip, guys, I just want to remind you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you like my federal election coverage, and make sure to leave a comment. It really helps us on the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, without further ado, here's a clip that actually lefty commentator Mark Carney said, Mark Carney is really good at this, or Dean Blundell said Mark Carney is really good at this.
The global economy is fundamentally different today than it was yesterday. The system of global trade anchored on the United States that Canada has relied on since the end of the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for our country for decades, is over.
I don't even know what he's going for here, because it's actually not over between Canada and the US. If anything, this whole issue might be great for Canada, because if there are tariffs by trying to sell things into the US, but there isn't into Canada, Canadians are about to get a lot of import products for far cheaper than we usually do.
Our old relationship of steadily deepening integration with the United States is over. The 80-year period when the United States embraced the mantle of global economic leadership, when it forged alliances rooted in trust and mutual respect, and championed the free and open exchange of goods and services, is over. Well, this is a tragedy. It is also the new reality. We must respond with both purpose and force.
Force? What do you mean force? There's just some tariffs on a couple of products that Canada has. Again, I think this is an unmitigated win because guess what we can do? We can be the redirection point for a lot of goods around the world who want to get into the US tariff-free. They can first sell from Vietnam into Canada or the Philippines into Canada or Japan into Canada, and then Canadians repackage it and then send it into the US. This actually may create a massive import market into Canada for basically helping manufactured goods from developing countries be able to reach the US without having to pay hefty tariffs. So I don't know what he's on about.
We are a free, sovereign, and ambitious country. We are masters in our own home.
I don't know who's voting for this. To be honest, and I know I've said that in a lot of videos, there's just no energy with him at all. And maybe it's because he's also had the air taken out of his tires on top of everything else because there was absolutely there's just nothing. Nothing here to grab onto. He had to have a press conference regardless of what Trump had said. And let's be honest. The only thing that was changed is that he was expecting to have to freak out about specific tariffs against Canada. There weren't any. And so he gets out there and says, oh, the global trade environment has changed and relationships are over. I don't know why, but they're over. This is going to hurt him deeply because now the economy as a whole can become the main issue. Jobs can become the main issue. Crime, immigration, and these are all issues that Pierre Poilievre can win on. And especially it's going to get very strange at at some sort of like a debate, if Mark Carney is still harping on this Trump issue, and Pierre can say, well, we avoided tariffs. Why are you now attempting to get us into a trade war? That would be a very good point for Poilievre to bring up, because that is what Mark Carney wants. Mark Carney was the most upset that Canada did not get tariffs. But now I want to move on over to another story, and that is the CBC, as well as other legacy media outlets, whining that Pierre Poilievre will not let him smear him, because this is really what's going on here. Whenever the legacy media is mad that Pierre Poilievre isn't giving them special privilege and attention and bringing them into his press events, they're really just complaining that they don't get their jobs done for them by Poilievre. Like, why isn't he giving us exclusive access? Because you guys lie a lot. So why should he give you like free lifts on his plane? Why should he bring you into his private events? But here's someone from the CBC reacting to all this while in the Maritimes. This was from a couple days ago.
Toronto, where Pierre Poilievre gave his speech. In this campaign, the Conservative Party has decided not to allow media to join it on its campaign plane, in something of a break with tradition. Previous elections, the Conservatives did. Other parties also are doing that during this election. It's very hard to keep up with someone who has their own jet aircraft. And so
how can't you keep up with somebody? You're the CBC. You have like 15,000 employees. You can't keep up with him? No matter where he lands, there was probably somebody who works for the CBC there who could go and cover the event.
We were at Pierre Poilievre's rally here in Charlottetown last night. We will catch up with him, we hope, for his rally tonight in Kingston. But we are currently lagging behind the campaign because of those logistic difficulties. Today, he laid out some of his proposals for how to deal with the Trump administration, which, of course, today is announcing new tariffs. He talked about a plan to defend.
So, wait. They have $1.4 billion in taxpayer money, and they need the Conservative Party, who I can assure you does not have $1 billion budget. They are relying on the Conservatives to get them around to Conservative Party events. They pre-schedule them all. You could hop on a plane and get to the right place on the right day, or just send someone on the ground there. Because again, the CBC is absolutely bloated with worthless employees who need something to do. So why have the employee chasing them around to Kingston? Shouldn't you have someone in Kingston who does local media coverage? I don't know. But for some reason, the left has highlighted this as like a really big knock against Pierre Poilievre, like, oh, he's running away from the media. They're allowed in his events. They can ask him questions. In fact, Pierre Poilievre has actually been doing a good job destroying journalists at some of his recent events. But no, it's because he wasn't letting them on their plane. They don't get to eat like airplane peanuts with him. That means that somehow this is not like nice or whatever. Here's Pierre Poilievre destroying a CTV news journalist at a recent event on the 3rd.
Good morning.
Hi, Abigail Beeman, CTV News. Your party has dropped 4 candidates in 2 days. How can Canadians be convinced of your vetting process for people you believe are fit to govern this country? And here in Kingston, how does that vetting process extend to Mr. Patterson for his previous connection to a church that supported conversion therapy?
Well, first of all, you omitted from your question that Mr. Patterson renounced conversion therapy years ago. And so the question is not accurate. Secondly, our vetting process is stronger than all the other parties. That's why we have a zero tolerance for anyone who acts unacceptably. This is the exact opposite of what we saw from Mr. Carney, who tried to keep on as a candidate someone who had asked for his Conservative opponent to be handed over to the Chinese Communist government on a bounty, to be imprisoned or maybe murdered because he was a dissident against that government.
Dude, the CTV news reporter is not getting their pay raise this year because they kind of perfectly set Pierre Poilievre up to tee off on them. And by the way, too, last night, the Liberals dropped another candidate, which is really funny because it was like Rob La Jolla in Edmonton Gateway or something like that. The man literally resigned his Alberta NDP seat to run for the Liberals. He runs for the Liberals for like 10 days. They realize he's a communist, in which they should have already known it, and they kicked him out. So the man now doesn't even have his old provincial seat because he got baited and switched by the Carney Liberals.
Mr. Carney said that it was a teachable moment. He's right. It taught all of us that Mark Carney will never put Canada first. He sold out. He went to China to get a $250 million loan from the Chinese government while he was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. He met with top officials in the central bank. He met with the mayor of Beijing. He built his own profit off of compromising himself and his company. He still has those compromises because he has money, untold millions, invested in Brookfield that owes all of this money still to the government in Beijing. So how are we going to know when he's acting for Canada rather than acting for his bottom line? And that's why I reiterate my call. Your question was about vetting. Well, Canadians should be able to vet Mark Carney's conflicts of interest by having him publish all of his financial interests so that Canadians know what interests he has that go against Canada's national interests. After the lost Liberal decade of selling out our economy, driving away our resources, taxing away our jobs, we can't afford to give Liberals a fourth term. We need a new Conservative government.
I gotta give it to him that was a very masterful way of taking a question that was basically like, why is your candidate a puppy beating, like, evil Satanist or whatever? And it turned it into, hey, you know that Mark Carney's actually a pretty awful human being, and your question's dumb, by the way. And then goes into all this stuff about China. Very, very good. This is also why Poilievre does not want these people on his plane traveling with him. Does he trust them not to even try and tape him when he's just having private conversations? Does he trust them to not just corner him on his own plane and start asking him like nonsense questions to try and like get some rise out of him? Because the media here, based on questions like that, they don't care about what the truth is. They are just looking for little bits of stuff they can toss at Poilievre to see if they can make him screw up, because the narrative currently is that Mark Carney cannot handle the press. He cannot answer questions straight. He ums and ahs all over the place. And so they are just doing stuff to try and make it look like, well, you know, Mark Carney relatively is pretty good because Poilievre also messes up. Poilievre hasn't messed up yet. He's actually been pretty solid throughout this entire campaign, whereas Carney can't get through a single press conference without having massive blowups. Anyways. So that should be it for this video today, guys. I'll be coming back with something else on polling later today. There's some big polling updates coming out of different firms showing the Conservatives starting to rally, not only gaining more support in the national polls, but those who are certain to vote are also turning towards the Conservatives.